Hey guys, Tara here for Destructoid. I am sitting with Anthony Carboni to the right of me.
Oh, hello.
Hello, and Donald Mustard to the left of me. Thank you for joining us here. If you guys don't know, he's the co-founder of Chair Entertainment, which is the brains behind Infinity Blade, and of course the upcoming Infinity Blade 2, which hits stores, well, the App Store on December 1st,
Just
correct?
one store, really.
Just one store, yeah. So, Infinity Blade, the first one, obviously hugely successful. It seems like for the sequel, you guys have tried to not really reformulate anything and just add content. I noticed that a big thing that you guys have added a lot is more story, which is something that people were saying they want to see more of in the first one. Can you tell us a little bit about what you guys have added without spoiling too much?
Yeah, sure. I mean, yeah, you're right. One of the big requests we got was we want more story. We want to know what's going on with the God King and what's going on in this world. And we've just recently released a really awesome ebook written by Brandon Sanderson, who's one of the biggest fantasy authors alive right now. And he has really kind of taken the story and just blown it out and made it so much bigger. He also wrote the script for Infinity Blade 2 with us. And the story just kind of continues from there. So you can expect to see a lot more that's kind of going on in this world with the Deathless and the Deathless Kings that kind of rule the planet.
So going into development on Infinity Blade 2, you guys were obviously one of the most successful games in the App Store with the first game. It's an enviable position to be in, but it's got to be a tricky position to be in, right? Because the balance of creating new stuff and keeping old fans happy has got to be a hard one.
Yeah, no, I think that creating any sequel is a challenge. But I think if you do it right, it can become just something amazing. I mean, I look at my two favorite films of all time are The Empire Strikes Back and The Dark Knight, which are both sequels. And I think what was so great about them is they took these really kind of core things that were great about the original Star Wars or Batman Begins, and then just build upon it in a way that everyone loves to see. And not really trying to compare Infinity Blade 2 to those unbelievable things, but we really tried to look at, what could we bring to Infinity Blade 2 that would really add to the experience. And for us, creating a sequel is really more about, do we have more to say in this genre of game? Do we have more gameplay that we really think we can bring that is unique and different and unique to these devices that you couldn't get on a traditional console? And we feel like we've been able to do that with Infinity Blade 2. We think we've been able to take that core Infinity Blade experience and really, really refine it and really kind of bring it to the next level. And we're really happy with the result. We spent a lot of time making sure that Infinity Blade 2 is absolutely pushing the very, very bleeding edge of what these devices can do with dynamic light rays and with character shadows and with just particle effects everywhere, with leaves kind of blowing in the wind and just really, really pushing the visual capabilities of these devices. That being said, an iPhone 3GS is also really powerful. And so because we use Unreal Engine 3, it's a very scalable engine technology. And so Infinity Blade 2 looks amazing on an iPhone 4S, and it also still looks really, really good on a 3GS, and they play amazing across all those devices. So it's really cool.
So you've added a lot graphically, you've added a lot to the story, you've built out the world, but what are we going to see in terms of gameplay that we didn't see in the first one?
What's really cool about Infinity Blade 2 is how much we've been able to refine and enhance the core gameplay. I mean, Infinity Blade is really all about gestural sword fighting. Really putting you in a situation where you need to look at your enemy and read their attacks and understand what's coming at you, and then customize your character so that you can deal with these massive enemies that are coming at you. With Infinity Blade 2, we've really kind of taken that to the next level by adding way more customization to the character. We've got this really cool weapon forging system where you can get all these hundreds of different gems that are in the world that you can use to customize your weapons, your armor, your abilities. We also have added different weapon styles to the game where you can now have two swords at a time, or you can have these huge axes and maces that you can use to just devastate enemies with massively powerful attacks.
And other than, obviously weapon stats and the damage that they do, how do those affect the play style?
Yeah, well, each one kind of has their advantages, their disadvantages, and their different strategic elements that you can use. So, for example, dual-wielding weapons are very, very fast, so you can attack way quicker than with the other weapon styles. However, because of holding two swords, you lose the ability to block. So you have to rely way more on your parrying or on your dodging. So it's a much more acrobatic style. Whereas the heavy weapons, you don't have the ability to dodge. So you have to learn how to block directionally or again, rely on your parry. There's a lot more strategy involved in kind of understanding the enemies you're fighting and what their strengths and weaknesses are, and also just what kind of play style you gravitate towards. You know, I mean, if you're really good at dodging, you might want to favor that style. But you're also giving up on the ability to, you know, have these other kind of attack styles. So there's a lot of strategy involved in the game this time.
So I know that one thing you said is that this is a much bigger, way more expansive, more exploratory game than before. Do you think that's all kind of just leading up to you guys maybe eventually expanding this and bringing it to consoles or Kinect or any other platform?
I mean, I guess that's one way of looking at it. I mean, it's really just goes more to the kind of games that we like to play and that we like to make at Chair. One of the games that we made before Infinity Blade was a game called Shadow Complex, and Shadow Complex was very much a non-linear exploratory game in the vein of Metroid. And that's kind of my favorite game. And with Infinity Blade 2, we wanted to introduce more of that kind of non-linear exploration element and craft the world in a way where it does evolve over time, where there are a lot more choices and branches and things while still kind of delivering that core Infinity Blade experience. As we kind of evolve these games, they will start to look more like a console type experience. But one of the things that we're trying to do with Infinity Blade is make something that is very, very unique to a handheld device. And the way that we play those kind of games. I mean, if I'm playing Mass Effect 2, I know that I'm locked into a long play session. I'm going to play it for an hour or 2 or 5. You know what I mean? Whereas if I'm playing on my phone or on my iPad, we've noticed the way that people play these games, and they play them more like 5 minutes at a time. And so we've really, really worked hard to make sure that in Infinity Blade and in Infinity Blade 2, you're having a meaningful, progressive, fun game experience every 2 to 5 minutes, so that you're constantly leveling up, you're constantly getting more stuff, and it's just more suited to the play style of a handheld device as opposed to a traditional console game.
Do you guys have any plans at all to bring it to consoles? Have you even discussed that? I know the first one was originally intended as a Kinect game, right?
Well, yeah, the first game, you know, when we were initially thinking of what a chair motion-controlled game looked like, we thought of Infinity Blade, and we thought of kind of those kind of core concepts, and we thought, yeah, that could work really well on Kinect. And then when we had the opportunity to make it for iOS, we thought, oh my gosh, that is the perfect game for iOS because of the touch screens. That being said, I totally see how Infinity Blade 1 and 2 could easily translate to Kinect and could be awesome experiences. Can you imagine like dodging and
Yes,
blocking? And I mean, it would be great. So, you know, we'll see. We're always, we want our games to be available to as many people as possible on as many platforms as possible. And so that's something, you know, we'll certainly look into.
So the first story was a very cyclical story, you know, father to son, and the gameplay sort of matched that. How does the world kind of change with the story this time around?
Well, that's actually one of the really cool things in Infinity Blade 2 is that you're now thrust into an evolving world, even to the point where, you know, you'll be making your way through the castle and you'll see a sapling tree growing up the side of a wall. And as you come back in different bloodlines, that tree will continue to grow and grow until it's grown so big that it's engulfing half of the castle. And that will open up new pathways for you to explore and for new areas for you to go to. And so it's not just a more non-linear world, it's an evolving world that you're in this time. Or one of the things that people are going to be most excited about is just the sheer amount of variety in the game. There's just so many weapons and so many new enemies, and we just have painstakingly worked to create just really, really cool people for you to fight. But really, I think that's going to all lead up to the ending of the game. The ending of the game is one of the coolest things. I think people are going to be blown away by the ending kind of sequence of the game. So let us know what you think when you get there.
Sure. Would you like to take this opportunity to announce Shadow Complex 2 while you're with us?
You know, we love Shadow Complex, and you know, it's something that we you know, we'll get back to at some point. So
that's a hard yes.
So have you guys decided on a price point for this yet, or can we expect roughly the same as the first one?
Yeah, it's roughly the same as the first one. The game will come out on December 1st, and it's for $6.99 on the App Store.
Excellent.
Cool. Thanks a lot, Tom.
All right.
Yeah, thanks for talking with us.
Thanks, guys.